Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wonder what we're doing here again and again and again, just talking and talking, even though the action we need to take is very obvious. We need to walk the talk. We should not be dilly-dallying. For 10 years, this government has passed legislation which has made us less safe. Let's talk about Gabby Renault and her family. Gabby Renault was brutally murdered in Saint-Jérôme a few weeks ago. And let's remember Marilyn Lévesque, who was killed 5 years ago by a criminal who was out on unsupervised parole. These are preventable deaths, preventable killings. But here is the awful truth. In Canada, our streets, which used to be safe, are now dangerous. Violent crime is up 55% under this Liberal government, and that's not just a statistic, that's a horrible truth. Those behind those numbers are forgotten victims and broken communities. And firearm crime has more than doubled in many areas. Extortion is up 357%. We see in Montreal and in Laval, people are setting fires. They're engaging in extortion. They force owners to pay. And there's no support for restaurant owners in these cases to get out of this situation. And all of this is the direct result of Liberal legislation. And I'll say once again that Liberal legislation such as C5 has been mentioned many times. C5 allows dangerous criminals to serve their sentences at home. C75, we're debating C75 again here today. It allows release. It allows bail. It allows people to get bail much too easily. And then they commit dangerous crimes again. Not to mention, Mr. Speaker, what's been done on bail and full parole. There was a commission in Quebec, after which I moved a motion here calling on the Public Safety Committee to look into what had happened at the Parole Commission. We did a full purge of commissioners in Quebec. They were too conservative for the government. They were replaced by commissioners who had little or no experience. These new commissioners had very leftist, woke ideology. So a lot more bail was granted. For instance, we see the case of Jonathan Blanchette, the man who killed Gabby Renault. He had been arrested 30 times. He had gotten bail many times, but his bail conditions, he did not uphold them. How can you get bail 16 times? You don't respect the bail conditions, but you're still free on the streets? That makes no sense, Mr. Speaker. Crime is up. For instance, in Montreal or in Quebec, sexual offenses have doubled, and there has been a doubling of cases of juvenile pornography. This gets people in a horrible cycle that no one in this Liberal government seems to want to break. Today, we're debating a Conservative motion which gives us an opportunity. Our motion calls for our legislation, C-242, to be fast-tracked. We want it fast-tracked. We want it immediately sent to committee for accelerated study so that we can expeditiously make the legislative changes that are necessary. The new Prime Minister, he's been Prime Minister for 6 months now. During his election campaign, he promised that he would quickly make changes to get crime under control in Canada. Well, what's been the case with crime and crime-related legislation these past 6 months? There's been nothing. Goose egg. I'll be sharing my time with the member for Cloverdale-Langley City. My colleague will have more to say, of course. We have so many striking examples of liberal promises. This new liberal government, they were supposed to change things. They haven't done a thing. And there's been a lot of harmful liberal legislation. We're told to sit still and wait because the government has legislation. Well, C-242 is a great example of legislation that we could immediately send to committee and move forward on. The government's not moving forward. They're not taking action, but we're ready to take action, and quickly. Because if we don't, then we have criminals who are let out on bail or parole. They're laughing at our system. They're out on the streets, and who pays the price? Women who are victims of domestic violence. They're scared to leave the house. But these criminals out on bail or parole, well, they're not shy to return to these women's homes and commit crimes or be violent. We can't have that in Canada. A few years ago, we had C5 implemented by former Justice Minister David Lametti, who's going to become ambassador to somewhere or other. I forget. C5 is for serving sentences at home. There are many racialized Indigenous and Black people in prison. That was the rationale. So they wanted to amend the criminal codes so that fewer members of these marginalized groups or minorities would end up in prison. But then there was a white man from Montreal who had sexually assaulted his former partner very seriously. After C5, instead of going to prison, he ended up serving his sentence at home, watching Netflix. And cases like that just racked up. For instance, there are criminals in Montreal who are, thanks to C5, they're not really worried about the consequences. They say, well, if we commit a crime, we'll just have to hang out at home. We called that out even before C5 passed. We voted against it. We said that it wouldn't work, and look at the situation now. It didn't work. 2 years ago, I tabled Bill C-325 to reverse C5. There were elements in my bill asking for it to be an offense, a criminal offense, for not respecting the conditions of one's bail or parole, but it was rejected by the Liberals and the NDP. I would like to thank the Bloc. They supported C5 at the time, but they realized that they had made a mistake, and then they supported C-325. They voted with us. Unfortunately, C-325 was defeated by the Liberals and the NDP, and here we are. C5 is still active. Today, our bill is about C-242. Sorry, I'm listing a lot of bills here. But what's essential, what we need to retain, is that people are just caught and released, caught and released. You commit a crime, you're released, 3 hours later. No one understands this. No one can comprehend that we are doing things this way. So through C-242, we want to bring back justice. We want to bring back justice, and this is what Canadians want. When we see women like Gabby Renault killed by criminals, this man broke his parole conditions 16 times, and we don't understand why he's free on the streets to kill Gabby. We're trying to help this government because they don't have any sense of urgency. It's been 6 months that they've formed government. I tabled a bill. My colleague tabled a bill. We want to fast-track this. We want to send this to committee so that Canadians can be safe, so that we can protect them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for Lac-Saint-Jean. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the member for Charlesbourg, Haute-Saint-Charles, for his speech. We are all moved. We're all affected by Gabi Renault's murder. The member for Rivière du Nord mentioned it. It occurred in his riding. We are all affected by that. Now, we have a question about today's Conservative opposition motion. When we have problems of this scope, why would the Conservatives want to fast-track legislation without studying it exhaustively? This would affect majorly important things like the presumption of innocence and our freedoms. Now, of course, we want to prevent crimes like this, which are unacceptable in a society like ours, but why shouldn't we take our time and do things fulsomely and thoughtfully? The honourable member for Charlesbourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Yes, we do need to take action. It's important, but the government has been on the wrong track for 10 years. This prime minister was elected promising to take swift action, but he's done nothing. There's a sense of urgency. Crime has been on the rise for years. Crimes like the murder of Gabi and Marie-Line Lévesque, and of course there are so many more that I could tell you about. There are way too many in Canada, and all of this calls for rapid action. That's why we want to fast-track the process. We want to send this to committee, and there will be study and discussion in committee. The honourable member for Bellechasse, Les Chemins, Lévis. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I often say in this place that women are often in a state of hyper-vigilance and hyper-awareness when we are in public. Now, the Conservative Party, we've always been consistent. We've always been for victims. We've always been on their side. Currently, we're witnessing a really unfortunate situation because this is the 14th presumed femicide in Quebec, and we Conservatives don't want to sentence people to prison sentences if they're innocent. The honourable member for Charlesbourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. I thank my colleague for an excellent question. In committee, at the Status of Women Committee, they deal with issues that affect women because, indeed, women are the top victims of serious domestic violence and femicide. That's why we need to fix this situation as quickly as possible. Everyone wants to live in safety and in security. That's what we're calling for. That's what we want. The Liberals, the NDP, and the Bloc at the time, they banded together to pass C5 and C75. The Bloc Québécois understood that C5 wasn't working. We thank the Bloc. We hope that the Bloc will continue to support us in legislating in the best interests of women. Of course, we need to pass the right legislation, but we need to think about victims and their futures. We need to prevent crimes.
Mr. Speaker, in my years as a parliamentarian, what I've witnessed is that the Conservatives tend to want to use the issue of crime and safety more as a fundraising tool or as a bumper sticker issue, Mr. Speaker, to try to create fear in the minds of Canadians. And yes, we are genuinely concerned about the issue. But what surprised me with this particular motion in C-242 is there is no reference to their American-style three-strike law. And I'm wondering why it is. Have they abandoned that particular policy? We just debated it on a motion that they brought forward that was defeated by a majority of the members of the House. Have they abandoned that particular policy?
L'honorable député de Charlesbourg.
The honourable member for Charlesbourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, it's unbelievable what the Parliamentary Secretary to the Prime Minister is blaming us for. He's faulting us for wanting to make our streets safer, for wanting to make women safer, to protect victims. How can they fault us for wanting a safer society? There's no slogan behind this. These are facts. Women are being killed. This is not a theoretical debate. This is reality. And there's one place we can change things, that's here in Parliament, with the support of a government which is supposed to improve things, but which is currently not taking any action. And that's all we're asking for, Mr. Speaker.